Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Contenders AV podcast inaugural trial edition. I'm Kyle Paoletta. I'm the editor of Contenders. I'm here with Lina Stolyar.
Hi, guys. I'm Lina, and I write Funny People You Should Know.
And we're here with Mr. Brady Pierce, who's one of the contributors to the site.
On occasion. More of like a historical holdover contributor, but someday soon maybe I'll write again.
How's everyone feeling today?
Feel great. Nice and muggy outside. I know,
it's horrible.
You know how it is.
New England in August.
This is why it's the dog days of August. These days are why
Dog-like.
I was nodding. I should speak audibly for this podcast.
This is the first podcast I believe for everyone. So
we're gonna do a very intense mime piece during it. Just use your imagination.
I just took my shoes off.
Yeah,
getting comfortable.
We're
just
drinking,
to let everyone in.
We're drinking some brewskis. Letting go. It's fine.
We're allowed to say that.
I think so.
We're all of age.
Yeah.
Oh, great! Good news. All right.
We're all of age.
This is a great segue into the fact that Brady's super old.
Thanks for that.
So we're going to start with an interview with Brady. Oh, Kyle, can you do a quick summary of what Contenders is about, like what Contenders' mission statement is?
Yeah, so the idea behind the magazine is that it's a place for young writers, people who are out of school or sort of entered the world of trying to be whatever they want to be when they grow up, a place for them to develop as writers or as artists or whatever, and just sort of a forum for exploring the things that they're interested in. That's sort of the general idea. If you haven't been, you can go to contendersmag.com.
Isn't it contendersmagazine.com?
Either.
Okay. We just switched over to...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we switched over to a really nice, awesome new format, so it looks really great, guys.
Yeah.
Go look at it.
We have 2 domain names coming up in the world.
Yep. And on our podcast, we're going to interview people we think are awesome, up-and-coming, cool people, which is why we're interviewing Brady. And I think we're making him slightly uncomfortable by his face.
But we can just start with interrogative questions. And,
let's get to it.
Yeah.
So we know Brady a little bit.
I wouldn't say a little bit. We're all friends.
Yeah.
we have known each other for many moons.
Yeah. And Brady writes for Contenders, and one of the pieces that you write that I really like is the Hannibal recaps, which have stopped because the show is not on air right now.
I could have picked up some other show, but I didn't because I was so enamored with Hannibal that nothing else is compared.
What attracted you to Hannibal to write about?
Well, it started with being attracted to the show itself, which was... It came out of the Fox show The Following, which I thought was going to be good, and was just like the worst thing that's ever happened. That's the one with Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
Who doesn't age? He's a beautiful man,
ridiculous.
But the show is horrible.
That's different from the show on AMC that was based on the Swedish. Wasn't that?
Oh, no, you're thinking The Bridge.
No? Another crime.
The Bridge is based on Swedish things.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's supposed to be good.
Yeah, that just started. But The Following was a year ago.
So The Following was like a year ago, and it was like just the shittiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then Hannibal came around, and like, I always liked Silence of the Lambs and the whole Hannibal Lecter as cultural icon more than anything else. And so I thought I'd give it a shot, and I thought it was going to be worse than The Following, and it turned out to be like just totally stunning, and like Brian Fuller absolutely hit it out of the park again after Pushing Daisies, and his whole aesthetic really it added a lot to the Hannibal Lecter story. Plus, like, the cinematography is better than anything on TV.
Anything on broadcast TV or anything on TV?
Any TV.
Yeah.
It's really genuinely just like the most gorgeously shot show.
Oh yeah, it's
which
stunning.
is part of the reason that it's such a troubling thing. And like Yeah, as the run continued, it made me even more interested in it. Like when the Salt Lake City, what do you call it, branch of NBC pulled the show because they were like, it's too violent, it's gross. We should not let anyone watch this. And so I was like, I should definitely watch this.
I wanted to ask you, just because I think Hannibal's sort of been identified as the broadcast show that lives up to the kind of Mad Men, Breaking Bad, like prestige cable drama.
You would think, but it didn't get any Emmy nominations.
Nope,
None.
Zero Emmy noms for that show.
I mean, I figured, I really thought that Mads Mikkelsen probably deserved at least a nomination for supporting actor, but I knew he wouldn't get it because the competition is crazy stiff.
True.
But it's just sort of a travesty that they weren't nominated for any technical awards because they're over on the AV Club, they did an interview. They did actually a full series walkthrough with Brian Fuller, and they also did an article on the sound design for the show, the composition, and evidently the music is scored such that there are notes, there's sounds that are not, they can't be played by normal television speakers.
Huh.
It's scored at such depth that you'd have to have a studio setting to experience the whole thing acoustically.
Wow. Gotcha.
Which is a little bit snooty, but it's probably right up my alley.
Brady has a background in sound design.
He's great at sounds, which is why our podcast is going to sound amazing. Could we very quickly do a tiny recap of what Hannibal is about? It's like a prequel to what people maybe traditionally know as the Hannibal movies.
Right. It's everyone's familiar with the Hannibal Lecter story, starting with Hannibal incarcerated at the Baltimore State hospital for the mentally insane or whatever. And so Hannibal starts when Dr. Hannibal Lecter is a consultant for the FBI, helping out this guy Will Graham, who is the investigator before Clarice Starling, who we all know from Silence of the Lambs. And so Will Graham is, particularly in the television version of Hannibal, he's described as having pure empathy. So his ability grants him. So he's able to get inside of the minds of killers in a sort of almost supernatural way.
Right.
And basically, the first series follows Hannibal as guide for Will, I would say.
He's his therapist.
Yeah, he's his therapist, and he's also a consultant, but he's at the same time, a serial killer.
Right.
And that's sort of his primary motivation.
Right.
And as he says, when he admits at the end of this first season that all of his actions were motivated by curiosity. Essentially, he just wanted to know what would happen if he did this, if he did that, if he killed this person. What would happen? So he's a fascinating character, and I'm sort of glad that it's gotten renewed. So
yes,
it was touch and go for a while.
It was. I think I heard Brian Fuller say that he knew that he would get to do this show. He just wasn't sure if it would be on NBC.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, we'll go somewhere else, which is a new interesting phenomenon for shows. For shows to get to transfer to a different network.
Yeah, it was funny. I saw. I don't know. I'm very interested in the broadcast cable split.
Yeah.
But it's Hannibal is sort of infamous for having such a low viewership.
Right.
But I think it averaged 3.5 million people.
If
maybe not quite that high, but which is incredibly low for a broadcast network and the time slot it was in and all that.
But it seems right for NBC, doesn't it?
Right, good for NBC. But the last weekend was the Breaking Bad premiere and the final thing, and I think they made 4.5 million,
which is
crazy. It was near 5, which is huge.
Which is the most they've ever had, and I think their first season they were getting maybe 1 million, which is huge for AMC. But that Hannibal only has 1.5 million fewer people and is this like huge failure.
Right. Well, the thing to keep in mind with viewership is more trends than absolute numbers.
Right.
And so Hannibal premiered to 4.36 million, and the finale had 1.9.
Oh, really?
So
the average isn't really useful there.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people turned it off?
Because it's violent, and because it presents violence in a very chillingly beautiful way that sort of makes people consider. You have to really think about it rather than just like Law and Order SVU, where the episode starts and then like 3 minutes later there's this girl that has like 70,000 stab wounds and she's like in the garbage.
Right.
And then someone says like a pun.
Yeah.
And then it's like boom, boom.
Right.
And this episode, which one? There's one episode where the victims were turned into angels.
That was horrible.
And the skin from their back was flayed and hung with fishing lines, so it looked like it was wings.
Mm-hmm.
And it was horrifyingly well presented.
Right.
And the other thing that really killed the ratings was that they skipped a week.
They did.
Right. They canceled an episode.
Right.
And they lost 1 million viewers during that gap week.
Which is crazy. I mean, it's I just don't understand how studios work. Like, just making a decision like that, like, we've bought this show, it's in our best interest for the show to be successful, but we're just gonna, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like they could have done a better job of pushing people towards Hannibal than they did.
Right. They got the rights, and then they sort of stepped back from it and said, hey, if you can stand on your own, then
good for you.
Great.
We're not going to help.
We'll keep broadcasting it.
That was horrible. Yeah.
It made me sad, but at the same time, it's a wonderful show that really deserves a lot more credit than it gets for both acting and just sort of the technical side of things.
Mm-hmm.
The writing's pretty good too, but for the most part, I really like the acting and the technical elements of the show are on point every week.
Regarding the violence, I found it really hard to watch. That episode where everyone's turned into a mushroom was kind of horrifying.
My girlfriend still can't eat mushrooms.
And
that episode aired in April.
Yeah.
So this is a mushroom-free apartment at this point.
Spoiler alert: one of them was still alive.
Yeah, well, they were all alive when they were put into the ground. But one of them
woke up, right?
Yeah.
Anywho.
It was horrible.
Even though I find the violence really hard to watch, I like that much more than like someone getting shot off camera. Like, I feel like it's more responsible in that way. Like, when I'm watching Breaking Bad and they're just shooting people left and right, that I don't find like that. I'm just like numb to that at this point. So like, it's horrible to say, but like creative violence is appealing to me at this point.
Well, and when the premise of the show is this brilliant serial killer who is thinking about violence in this very specific kind of exploratory way, it like you need to see it. You can't understand the character without
and
experiencing that.
Yeah, and one of the important pieces of the show is that it really does give a lot of weight to what death and what murder does, not only to the victim, but the perpetrator, to the people that are trying to catch them. It has a very conscientious, sort of holistic view of the horrors that violence does all around. To anyone that comes in contact with it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
When does it start?
Yeah. Is it going to get a weird summer release again? Is it going to be a summer show only?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So it'll be 2014, like.
Yeah, I bet. And it'll probably premiere to less than 2 million.
Because everyone's forgotten about it in a year. Yeah. I want to talk about writing processes. I find people's writing processes like fascinating. So I want to know what. You've written a lot.
You just heard Brady gasp.
No, I'm just wondering. So you're supposed to have a process? Is that what I'm missing?
That's what I'm intrigued by. Like, when you're thinking about writing a piece for Contenders, what interests you, and like, why do you decide to write about one thing as opposed to something else?
Well, the first step is that if my anxiety is at an appropriate level, if it's low enough, then I can write. Okay. And if it's not low enough, then I just don't write anything.
That's, yep.
And then the second piece would be, if I feel I can write, if it's something that I feel I have strong feelings about, if I feel. But also something that is relatable. Ideally, I'm going to find it somewhere online to start with, because if it's just sort of, I'd rather not. I try to have pieces that are grounded in some sort of external, verifiable thing. Because I could write, if I want to write something that's a little more personal, a little more here are just my thoughts on this thing. I would just do that maybe on my own personal blog.
Right.
I could probably write 2,000 words as a treatise on why the chili dog is the greatest invention in all of American history. Mm-hmm. And it is. I think it's the most American thing of all time. But that's not a contender's piece to me. It's because it's just, I could link to chili recipes, but that's not really pertinent.
Yeah, and something that I've always really liked about your stuff is that you're good at taking whatever your personal experience is, or taking a single event that's happened to you and connecting this to a sort of broader experience. You did a really great piece on switching your driver's license from California to Massachusetts, which is sort of a little thing, but it is just this token of I don't live where I grew up anymore, and having a really physical representation of that. I thought you explored it really well, but you kept yourself in the forefront while also making it really easy to identify with.
In terms of process, I'm a horrible drafter.
Basically,
I write 1.2 drafts.
Okay.
So I write it, and then I go back, and I'm like, I should probably use a different verb here, and then I submit it.
Do you edit as you're writing?
Oh yeah.
Me too. It's the worst. It makes for the slowest writing of all time.
It's horrible.
Yep.
It's the worst habit of all time.
Yep.
Especially because I'm probably just gonna edit whatever.
Right.
You just did.
Yeah. And that's why I find that writing for contenders, especially as a feature, is a lot more paradoxically, I guess, freeing, because I know that I'm not just going to be allowed to publish and push out whatever I want. It's got to go through a system of Kyle looking at it and going, buddy.
And that's why I love writing for the blog, because I can just word vomit everywhere, click publish, and it goes up that day.
Yeah, you guys are getting an unvarnished portrait.
Yeah, I was reading a piece, this writer, I don't remember who it was, I'm great at sources, but he was saying that you should just treat your first draft as that. It's just your first draft, and you should just get it out there as fast as you can, and then you can edit it. And I was like, that sounds horrible. I can't do that at all.
Would that I were that guy.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm I've tried all sorts of different tactics to force myself to just draft, covering the screen when I'm writing so that I have to go back and edit for typos. And it's the worst. Mm-hmm. It sucks. I hate it.
Well, everyone's process is different.
Yes, which is why it's fascinating.
Right, but it's interesting that there can be so much variation, and I think the product hopefully always has a consistent voice, no matter what steps it took to get there for the writer. But I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal, I suppose. It's a consistent voice and not writing stuff that you look back 2 days later and go, buddy, what was that?
Should we do my James Lipton style questions?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is going to be a special part of our interviews where we do James Lipton style.
You guys
questions.
prepared a lot of stuff for this.
By you guys, Brady means Lena.
Some of us are a little bit more anal than others, and it's fine.
Some of us own note cards.
Okay, ready? What is the last dream you remember?
So I have either very boring dreams or totally bizarre dreams, which I guess describes every person. But like my normal dreams are extremely normal. Like I've gotten into fights with my girlfriend because like I dreamt that I told her to buy bananas at the grocery store, and then like when she comes back from the store and there's no bananas, I'm like, "But I told you." She's like, "Definitely not. You definitely didn't." Last dream I remember, I had a dream where, actually, funnily enough, because we're about to talk about this, where I was like at the grocery store and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in line in front of me, and he was buying like a pack of gum, and I was like,
as Kareem, say it.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar
is known to do. Thank you. Anywho, continue.
And so he bought the gum and then he left, and that was the last dream I remember.
Did you like say hi to him?
Nope.
Did you stand behind him?
Yeah.
Was he tall?
Extremely tall.
Okay. Just trying to see how real it was.
No, it wasn't. It
I
wasn't
dreamt
like
that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was only 4'9".
No, I told you, very normal or very weird.
I like that constitutes as a very normal.
It's normal. I mean,
it could
nothing
happen.
weird. Yeah, exactly.
If you lived in LA.
People buy gum.
Yeah.
True. I'm sure he loves to chew gum.
Most people buy gum.
True.
With his giant jaws.
Do you think he has to use like 3 pieces of gum as equivalent to 1 piece for us?
Yeah. Normal humans could not handle the amount of gum that he needs in his mouth.
Probably gets big league chew and then just like bit by a fistful. Just.
What is your favorite song at the moment that you're listening to?
My favorite song right now is "Young Fathers" by Typhoon.
I was sorry.
Go ahead.
I was hanging out with a mutual friend of ours, Jeff, last night, and he played it for me.
Yeah,
song.
I turned him onto it. So really, I played for you.
Thanks,
Give
Brady.
credit
I
where
really
credit's
enjoyed
due.
that song you played for me.
But it was on All Songs Considered 2-3 weeks ago, and I was like, whenever the podcast gets online, I sort of casually listen to it at work. And that song, it was the first song on that episode, and I got like a quarter of the way through the song, and I was like, hang on, this song is really good. And I got like halfway through, and I was like, I probably need to stop working until this song is over. And then I finished, and I was like, I need to listen to this song at least 4 more times right now.
Nice.
It's epic. It's an epic song.
Absolutely incredible. And it has sort of... if you made like a checklist of all of the things that I like in songs, it sort of like ticks all of them off. Mm-hmm. There's like an a cappella sing-along, there's like a syncopated rhythm, there's a large choral vocal element.
Has a really good bridge.
Very good, yes. It's just a good song. So that's the song that I can't stop listening to.
Nice. Cool. Everyone go listen to it after the podcast is done. Not now. Later.
Yeah. We'll provide a link or something to the
we'll
NPR
link to
page.
it.
Yeah.
We'll link it.
It'll probably end up on the blog before too long.
What is the most overused word in your vocabulary?
So. The word so I use as just a serial transitional phrase. Like, every new paragraph might start with so before I go back and edit out that
You're like, oh, there's so's. Just write
just
down.
all the way down. So it's probably so.
Nice. This is getting into a little bit. No, wait, not yet. What is the first movie that you remember seeing in a theater?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thank you. Things that I genuinely want to know about people.
I don't know.
Do you remember the first movie that, like, your first movie-going experience?
I'm terrible with my childhood. I'm terrible with memories.
Are we trying to repress some stuff?
I don't
Just
know.
saw The Jungle Book and it was never the same.
Yeah, my first movie was probably when I was 3, and it was Friday the 13th. No, I don't know. It's probably a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
Movies that I have distinct recollections of from my childhood: Men in Black in theaters.
Mm.
The first Men in Black,
Mm-hmm.
which scared me a little bit at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I remember thinking the Blinky thing.
Yeah,
Terrifying.
It's existentially terrifying.
For like a 7-year-old, like, oh my god.
Were you guys afraid of blinking lights after that?
No.
I was afraid of having my memories erased by blinking lights.
I was probably afraid of like very, very large silver pens.
Nice.
But like blinking lights are sort of, there's blinking lights everywhere.
True.
It's too much of a fear. But silver pens, holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh.
What is the best piece of advice you ever have received? It doesn't have to be, anything.
Let's see. Probably that no matter what you do, someone's probably always going to hate you. Not even probably. Someone will always hate you.
True.
Regardless of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will always be upset with what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can only worry about what other people think up to a certain point.
That's true.
That's why you should never read the comments.
Never read the comments, especially on like widely syndicated things.
Yeah,
because they're just a cesspool.
If you ever post anything to YouTube, disable comments immediately. Don't ever read them. Someone will call you a bad word. Or say something mean about you. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
What will making it look like or feel like to you?
Personally or professionally?
Either one. Or both.
I don't know, man.
Whatever you want.
Probably when it takes me less than like 2 months in between articles that I can post to like work up the nerve. That's sort of the huge goal is to be able to actually produce content on sort of a regular scale, regular schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's hard to do. When you have a day job.
Which I have very, very much day job.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I feel good about that.
So
Brady's going to stick around. Everyone's going to stick around. No one's leaving.
We're all sticking around.
All 3 of us will stick around.
Yep. And we're going to talk about a book.
Yeah.
We read.
Yeah. This is a book by Chuck Klosterman that came out in July called "I Wear the Black Hat."
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting book. I mean, all of his work is sort of, he's a big fan of just taking a big idea and then writing, 13 variations of it. And in this book, it's just the idea of villainy, and especially in like the broad cultural consciousness. Who is the villain? Who is the hero? What does that say about us as a society, the people we choose to demonize? So I've read this whole book, but I believe the 2 of you have not. But there was an excerpt that I shared with you that was about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar of Brady's Dreams fame and O.J. Simpson.
Of being a horrible human being thing.
Right. And so this is a chapter in the book, and I mean, Klosterman I think he's most known as a rock critic, and then second to that as a kind of a sports commentator person, especially now that he's a writer for Grantland. So with this chapter, he's talking about these 2 athletes who came to be seen as sort of villains in different ways. OJ it sort of goes without saying why he became a villain, just the entire, maybe killing his wife, but getting away with it. And
for sure killing his wife.
Right. Well, that will turn you into a villain, even though he, before that, was one of the most widely loved football players and was a humongous celebrity. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who has sort of had an opposite trajectory, where now we remember him fondly as this great basketball player, and he's he's like very politically active, he's a humanitarian, but while he was playing, he was so cold to the press and to fans, and he had such a persona of not being interested in the celebrity that came along with being a professional athlete, that he sort of became this villain for sports writers because he was so disinterested. So yeah, basically Klosterman just examines the two of them next to each other, not to say who is the greater villain, but just looking at the celebrity culture of athletes and how it works into this broader idea. So yeah, what did you guys think of that?
I thought it was fascinating. My brain consumes celebrity knowledge very well. Like where useful information should be, I know the names of Victoria Beckham's kids. Like that's what my brain tends to remember. But I had never examined it in the context of sports heroes and sports villains, so that I found to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested what you think, because I know Brady and I are both big sports fans, but I know that you are not even the littlest bit.
No, I certainly didn't have that context of, for me, I didn't have the context of knowing that O.J. Simpson was considered a great football player beforehand. We also were really young when the whole shebang went down.
Basically for our entire lifetimes, he has been the guy who was, evading the police on the Los Angeles highways.
White Bronco.
Right. He was the guy in the White Bronco. To us, he was never the star running back of the Raiders.
Right.
Right. And sort of the interesting thing that stuck out to me in reading the excerpt from Klosterman's book, from my perspective, from my age, is that Kareem was never really... He's first and foremost a sports star, but all of the villainy that sort of was attached to him that was being described, I absolutely believe that it was the case, because he's an intellectual, and he very well spoken, but that didn't really come across, because from my perspective, he's mostly been, I don't know, his sports career was like a record. It reads like it's just like a record book.
Yeah,
he's just like the greatest, one of the greatest of all time. Number one scorer, if not the most dominant, of his era or of all time. But an extremely talented basketball player, and that's what sort of stood the test of time as far as my knowledge of Kareem goes. Whereas OJ had, the sports career,
right?
But we remember him only for the little matter of just murdering the shit out of his wife.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the things that Kareem was demonized for aren't as big a deal anymore. It was a big deal in the 80s that he was interested in Black Power and sort of not necessarily Malcolm X style.
Not militant.
Right. But not necessarily militant, but that was one of the few areas in which he was outspoken. And for a culture that was still struggling with race and continues to, but at that time when it was so much less acceptable to talk about Black Power in that way, then just that fact, today is sort of taken for granted. Yes, he was very proud of his heritage and he wanted better for his community. So, that's something that I thought was interesting. Sort of one of those things that shows how far we've come, but also not at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought there was, I think that aspect of being villainized for not being grateful for your celebrity is still around. I feel there's still a really interesting fine line of you have to be grateful for people wanting to take a picture with you, but if you call the paparazzi yourself, that's not okay. There's a very fine line of when the public seems to love a celebrity. You can't be too disinterested in it, and if you're way too interested in it, there's like you're screwed.
You have to play the game,
right? And the game
seems the game has way more rules than any sport that a celebrity could be famous for playing.
Right.
It's a ridiculous game that Kareem just sort of called him out on it. And another athlete that comes to mind that did the same thing is Barry Bonds, who just hated everyone.
Yes.
Like, he just hated all of the people. And that included journalists, and so he wasn't popular. And then add on to that the fact that he lots of steroids, and then
lots of steroids.
And you had a very unlikable guy that didn't at all mind being portrayed as the villain, because he was there to do his job, which was to hit a baseball really, really far, and he did that better than anyone else in the history of baseball.
Right.
I mean, his numbers are staggering. In his 2001 campaign or whatever, when he was, he got walked like 1 out of every 4 at bats or something, and he still had an astronomical number of home runs. Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous. His hit to home run ratio was nearly 1-to-1.
Right.
It was ridiculous.
And there's a broader conversation there about steroids and the way that they've sort of created this different aspect of.
I'm not bringing in the steroid conversation. I'm just saying that the personality of Barry Bonds is one that is very difficult to like, even as a San Francisco Giants fan through and through. He's not a likable guy. Yeah. He was a great ball player. He did a lot of steroids, but so did a lot of people.
Right.
In that era. And
Mark McGwire was very likable.
Yeah.
Sammy Sosa was very likable.
Sosa was very likable, but Bonds didn't give a crap about being the guy that you could come do for an interview after the game. And, he didn't have anything profound to say like Kareem,
right? But
he was similarly not buying into the game of sports celebrity.
Yeah. Right.
And we're on the sports track, but a similar thing is happening right now with Johnny Manziel, the quarterback for Texas A&M, where when the comparison that gets drawn all the time is between him and Tim Tebow, because both of them were not yet seniors when they won their Heisman, so they had another season to play at the college level before they went on to the professionals. And Manziel he's not likable. He does a lot of things like probably signing autographs for money, which is illegal under NCAA rules, but.
And it's not like he's an inspiring story. Like he comes from a pretty wealthy background.
Yeah.
It's not like he's one of these guys who can't wait to go pro so that he can build a house for his mom or something.
Right. And he's enjoying his celebrity, which is another one of the games that you're not supposed to. That's another one of the
Big
rules.
No-no.
Yeah. You have to enjoy your celebrity without appearing to enjoy your celebrity, particularly at the college level.
Right.
Well, and I think the other connection point between at least Kareem and OJ is that OJ was great at the celebrity game.
Oh, yeah.
He was a super marketable star. He was really likable. He was in all these commercials. He was very visible and very open with the press in a way that was, the way that Tiger Woods used to be. And just one of these guys that everyone looked up to, which is why his fall from grace was so dramatic, and it's still something that people are so fascinated with.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did either of you guys read If I Did It?
No.
That shit insane book that he wrote.
Oh my goodness, it sounds crazy.
Why would he write it? Is my real question. The book, from what is described as his account of his relationship with his wife, which is a real account.
So non-fiction for a lot of it.
And then plus a fictional account of if he had killed his wife, how he would have done it based on the facts of the trial / real life.
And apparently that section, there's just sort of a sentence that's at this point, I will begin speculating. And then it goes into this detailed account of how he killed his wife.
72-point font. Hypothetically.
Do you think it's like a weird sick thing of like, I got away with it, so let me taunt you guys with it? Like, you guys hate me so much already, so I'm gonna just stick it to you even more? Like, why would one want to even put this into writing?
I think he's just a guy that was so used to being this huge celebrity.
Huh.
And I mean, when that book came out, I think it came out on something like the 10-year anniversary of the trial or something.
Of course it
came
did.
back
Of course it did.
Right, or maybe 15. But it was some connected date like that of just sort of, I don't know, to me it was saying, I'm still here, like, remember how this happened, remember that I'm not in jail right now,
right.
Remember, like, this whole episode, as if people could forget it.
Right.
And, I mean, the interesting thing is that he did go to jail for the whole, what was it, like, sports memorabilia?
He stole something.
Yeah, but it was one of those sort of, like, Klosterman describes this jury that convicted him of the maximum possible sentence of stealing a watch or whatever it was, just because they all knew, everyone has this sense that he deserves, and by everyone I mean mainly white people, because that continues to be a strange,
I don't know. I wonder if it's a matter of, you mentioned, Kyle, you talked about the fact that he was this huge sports celebrity, and now he's this huge criminal celebrity, kind of.
Yeah.
Not a celebrity amongst criminals, but he's renowned for being a murderer that got off.
Yeah.
Right.
In so many words. And so I wonder if it's not just a matter of wanting to remain cognizant or remain present in the public eye, and remain a celebrity in the one way that he's got left as the guy that, if, big quotation marks, if I did it, and then winky face around the I did it, right?
Yeah. I hope he put a winky emoticon in there.
Oh my god.
I hope so.
I want to see the first draft. Like, just little notes to his editor, like, oh, this part was really fun.
JK, I didn't do it.
Yeah. This is going to really make people angry.
Yeah. Would you recommend that everyone read the book?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
not If I Did It. The book that we're talking about.
First, go by If I Did It, because your money won't actually go to O.J. Simpson, because I think his wife's family sued him for the.
No, it was the
other guy.
The other guy.
Oh yeah. Anyways, go by If I Did It. You're not supporting O.J. Simpson, and I'm sure it's a fun read. After you do that, I would definitely recommend If I Wear the Black Hat.
Mm-hmm.
It's quick, it's interesting, it brings up a lot of issues that, we just sort of take for granted in the way that we consume culture.
Mm-hmm.
And tons of different stuff. He talks about rock music, he talks about many things beyond sports. So
Gotcha.
Ron Goldman.
Yep.
You are supporting Ron Goldman. And isn't that...
Because he was also, murdered by O.J.
Super brutally murdered. All right, so we wanted to... moving to
from murder, let's move to...
Aaron Sorkin.
To a show that feels like murder while you're watching it.
So I recently started watching The Newsroom. I am about a year late on the Newsroom train. I didn't watch it in the first year because I heard it was so bad. And then the new season premiered and everyone was like, oh, it's better. It's a little better. And so I watched the first episode and was like, this is pretty good, and decided to watch the first season, which was a mistake. In so many words. So a quick recap of what The Newsroom is. It stars Jeff Daniels, who plays...
Will McAvoy.
Yes, they're great names. I will give him that. He came up with really
Aaron Sorkin can name a guy.
He is a expert namer.
Who is the anchor of a nightly news show for ACN, which is like a made-up
Yeah,
news
like kind of a
organization.
CNN facsimile.
Jane Fonda owns ACN. Her son is a president of it, who's played by Chris Messina, who's on The Mindy Project. Very different sections. Will McAvoy's EP executive producer is played by Emily Mortimer, who's British. And then
Where do I know her from?
I don't know.
All right.
She's British, but actually American,
right,
as
that's a
will
big
be
thing.
pointed out many times.
Olivia Munn plays Sabbath's...
Sabbath Sloan?
Yeah, great
Sloan
name.
Sabbath.
Sloan Sabbath, great name, again, who is a panelist on the show.
Also in all-girl Black Sabbath cover band.
Yes. And then there's Alison Pill, who's like one of the younger producers. John Gallagher Jr. of Spring Awakening fame is one of the senior producers. Dev Patel from Slumdog Millionaire is like their blogger. He's not even a producer, he's their blogger.
Because Indians are good at the internet.
Yep, that's actually brought up there. And Sam Waterston, who was on Law and Order, is the president of the news division, and he's actually great.
He's by far the best part of this show.
Sam Waterston has never done any wrong.
No.
I don't think.
No.
Not even that really bad Great Gatsby movie from like the 1980s or whatever.
Yeah.
It was not a good movie, but it was Robert Redford's fault, and Sam Waterston is blameless.
If you can, just Google his character in the newsroom and just watch those segments. Don't watch the rest of the show.
Can we get a supercut?
Yeah.
You'll just see Sam Waterston drinking a lot of bourbon and cursing all the time.
And so Will McAvoy's whole thing is that he's trying to reinvent the news as being like serious and fair and responsible and all of the good things, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's doing it in a very infuriating way. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because this is like the first time in years that I've actually like yelled at my computer screen, or like had to pause it and like walk away because I was so frustrated.
I just need a moment.
But the way that the women are portrayed on the show is beyond frustrating to me. And maybe I think I would feel the same way if the male characters were doing this, but it just so happens that only female characters do this.
And let's start out with talking about, is it Emily Gallagher,
No, Alison Pill.
No, I was going to talk about the executive producer.
Emily Mortimer.
Emily Mortimer.
Mackenzie something.
Yeah. Supposedly a award-winning producer. Just came back from Afghanistan for 2 years.
Two Peabodys.
Yep. Multiple Peabody-winning producer. Doesn't know how email works. No. Because she's so flighty.
The women on the show are portrayed as really incompetent, which is hard to bear. They're portrayed as really being swayed by their emotions. Right. Being really interested in... they're like... Emily Mortimer's character and Jeff Daniels' character, they used to date and they broke up. But Jeff Daniels somehow manages to like be a professional at work, while Emily Mortimer's character, who's this like award-winning producer, is like the biggest airhead around him, and can't like control herself in any way, shape, or form.
And Alison Pill's character is, I mean, she's really good on it. Like, I think that her performance is quite good,
mm-hmm.
but her character is just like so embarrassing. And the show does do a good job of mansplaining, where there's numerous instances where her boyfriend, who's another executive producer, and John Gallagher Jr. I'm terrible with actors' names. Who has a crush on her, are basically mansplaining how to be a news producer to her, and sometimes she shows them up, but most of the time she really needs the help.
Right. So her whole character is the worst, because she was an intern, got promoted unknowingly to his assistant, and then again got promoted to associate producer. Yeah. And in the second episode, which I think we all watched, she's doing a pre-interview. I wrote this down. It's about SB 10. 1070, the immigration bill.
Yeah.
And she's doing a pre-interview with someone from
the Jan Brewer's office in Arizona.
And so John Gallagher Jr., who's her senior producer, is like, let me do a test run with you, which is normal because she's an associate producer and he's a senior producer. And she's like, no, how dare you? Like, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's totally fine, right? It does not end up being fine.
Who would have thought?
But the reason it doesn't end up being fine is the most frustrating part for me. It wasn't because, like, she couldn't, like, hold it in. She, like, spewed all of her political views on him. It was because she used to date the guy that she was pre-interviewing, and he, like, in a hilarious hijinks ensued, and he, like, brought home a girl, and she hid under the bed while they were having sex. It was, like, a personal reason for why she couldn't do it. And I tried to think about why I think Aaron Sorkin can't write these characters, and I think the main problem is because he is credited as writing all of the episodes. Mm-hmm. He had traditionally, I think, a lot of shows have a writer's room and they like divide the tasks. Mm-hmm. But Aaron Sorkin...
You don't know how women work, so someone else will write this character.
Right, but Aaron Sorkin writes all of the episodes, so everything is filtered through his lens, ultimately. Yeah. So he is the be-all, end-all of what is on the show.
Right.
Which I'm sure is great for him because he has control over everything, but it's horrible because he's a crazy person who can't write characters.
Yeah.
Yes, I found that incredibly... I think I'm not alone. I think... Many op-ed pieces were written about this.
Yeah, and I also think that what people have felt has been at least somewhat corrected in the second season.
Yes.
The girls are getting a little bit more agency. Mm. A Sorkin show is a Sorkin show, and in addition to the horrible understanding of female characterization, I think that the main struggle for me with the Newsroom is that where the West Wing succeeded in placing everything in sort of a fictional world, the Newsroom very much bases, it would be one thing to have the first episode focus on an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico from the, deep water horizon.
Right.
But when it's the Deepwater Horizon and they're like,
it's very...
They're taking it. It's a show about a newsroom, but it's really a show about how hindsight is 20/20.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
And like, this is the reason that I never really watched the show is that yes, Aaron Sorkin, I could also write very snarkily about like how it would have been better if we did this if I have 3 years or 2 years to consider.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily, I don't think, advance conversation in the same way that I feel like the West Wing sort of did, because what the West Wing sort of touched on very broad political elements, political leanings, failings in the system that were imagined, but it was presented very candy coated and very well wrapped.
It was government in its best form.
Exactly. It was like, oh man, wouldn't it be great if it was like this? And with the Newsroom, I feel like it's more, or at least in the episodes that I've seen, it's more that, I could also tell you how much better it would be if we knew that Halliburton totally, botched the cementing job, the day that the spill started, right? Like if we were talking about that from the beginning, then it would be a totally different story. Man, it would be a totally different story. And you're right, Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's sort of, it just is so fundamentally opposed to what journalism is to have that perspective. The point of journalism is that you don't know. The point is that people are just doing the best they can with the information they have.
Right.
So by creating this hero journalist who's talking truth to power and changing the national conversation, it's very clear that the point of the show is, I wish this is how CNN was. I wish this was how the news conversation happened. But, I would never go on the record as defending cable news, but that's not how it works. You don't get to know what the important story is the day it happens.
Wouldn't the Newsroom be a slightly more interesting show and this is sort of happening this season, if they were wrong sometimes, like, I would be so interested to see, like, how they didn't know anything and had to make an hour show about, like, we don't have any info, like, what's really happening now with...
Man, I'd watch that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the plot line this season is based on a famous case where CNN got it wrong about a big
Horribly
case.
wrong.
Well, either got it wrong or couldn't make the story happen. Like, either they were completely wrong or the story was right, but they didn't have the sources.
Yeah.
Someone screwed up the fact-checking. They didn't get the people they needed.
But what's interesting now is that this story that season 2 is employing is a fake story. So
so we're right back in the wheelhouse for Sorkin.
Right, exactly. So this idea of Genoa, which is like the big plot line of season 2, is that they knew something about the story of Genoa, but that's not real, right?
Genoa,
so like
Italy?
Sort of. It's like code name.
Codename Genoa.
It's about how we used sarin on civilians.
Yeah.
But
Which
that's
is,
not...
I mean, I think the actual story, I can't remember the details of it, but it was that we used like some kind of nerve gas in Bosnia.
Right.
Was what that story was supposed to be.
Okay.
That was never verified.
Mm-hmm. But it's better because of it. But it's not real. It's not like he's saying, like, BP spill, like, at the end of that episode, he says, like, we were the only ones that reported on the BP spill. And it's like, because you are writing this 3 years into the future.
Right.
I have watched
certain advantages.
Yeah, I have watched many an interview with Aaron Sorkin because I'm a masochist, where he has said our guys get to be right because we have hindsight, and it's like, yeah, I know Aaron Sorkin. That's not fun to watch. That's horrible to watch.
Let me reframe that as a criticism.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'd recommend this show.
No, never. I mean, the biggest problem is just that it's a show that has a really noble idea behind it, which is that news isn't very good in 2013 and it could be better. Mm-hmm. But its approach of showing, like, this is how you guys screwed up, it's not cutting it.
No.
Yeah, and it doesn't really address the major movable pieces when it comes to correcting news journalism in the year 2013. Mm-hmm. Which are that we're in sort of a clickbait territory for all news, whether it's HuffPo or even all the way up to
New York Times.
New York Times. Thank you for something more reputable than CNN.
But I mean, they're just as interested in getting as many people.
Clickbait. Everything's clickbait, and that's to the detriment of journalism because it's more advantageous to throw out a ridiculous headline and then backtrack and we'll have a huge headline, front page, main homepage of the New York Times, and then we'll print a retraction on the last page of the print edition only, and that'll be like in the footer of the website. It's a link that's like the same color as the background text. So it's just it's getting folks to your page, it's getting ad revenue, and and idealism isn't going to bring hits.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is the last thing I'll say because thinking about the show makes me hate myself. But Sorkin acts as if the only problem is that advertising is driving news more than news is driving advertising, which is a problem. It's a problem that's existed since the 1890s. Like, this is the only way that news makes money is with advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And what he doesn't engage with is exactly what Brady's talking about, that the stakes are different now because it's so much harder to make money on advertising than it was when you could just have Saks Fifth Avenue pay you a couple $1 million to get a full-page spread every Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much harder to make ends meet with advertising that the standards get lower and lower because you're just trying to connect as many eyes to your advertisers as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't watch that show ever.
Unless they start talking about this stuff in season 3.
Which like, oh, hey, the internet has changed journalism a lot. And not just because we need Dev Patel on the blog now.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Okay. Well, now I'm angry.
Yeah.
Let's
that just turned into like a bitch fest about how terrible that show is.
Speaking of anger,
Yes.
let's talk about Lana Del Rey and her feud with Lady Gaga and their song called So Legit.
So legit.
Can I ask a question? When did this song come out?
It was leaked in June or maybe July.
Of this year?
Yes. It's recent. It's sort of shadowy because it came out and then Lana Del Rey retracted it. But it's the internet, so when she took it down, it was everywhere.
Like end of July.
Yeah, news to everyone. Once something goes on the internet, it's up there forever. You can take it down.
Sorry, Beyonce. Those Super Bowl photos are going to be up there forever.
Yeah, forever. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
So let's talk about what her major criticism of Lady Gaga is. Why is this even happening?
Well, okay. So it seems like Lana Del Rey's assumption is that there are two major forces in music right now, and they are Lady Gaga and Lana Del Rey.
Which, let's start there, is a very iffy assumption to begin with.
Right. And in this song, Lana Del Rey positions herself as the quote-unquote downtown, the Brooklynite, the avant-garde, versus Lady Gaga as this sort of fallen avatar of that same scene, as this huge pop star who sold out and, The problem with this is that Lady Gaga's entire career has been trying to be Lady Gaga. There was no point in which Lady Gaga was interested in, going to house parties in Bushwick and having people blog about her. Uh-huh. She always wanted to be the biggest pop star.
Right. Wasn't most of the criticism about Lana Del Rey centered on her authenticity and how she is also like a creation?
Yes.
Yeah. And she was hyped before there was anything to hype.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what really gets me about this song, because I don't think that it's like, I don't want to just shit on her about it, because I think it's weird that she targets Lady Gaga, but it's true that she's been painted as this kind of constructed persona in the same way that Lady Gaga has. There's been tons of think pieces about this.
Right.
Sure.
But what's interesting about this song is that it sounds like what Lana Del Rey sounded like before she became Lana Del Rey. So before this persona, she was just kind of this singer-songwriter who was doing a little bit more avant-garde work, and she sort of a Cat Power knockoff, which is what the song sounds like. It sounds like Cat Power doing a really moody acoustic, but there's a little bit of kind of echoing. It's coming from that same place, and it seems like Lana Del Rey is saying, I'm still this person. I'm still this person who's hacking it out just like everyone else, trying to make this really artistic, personally meaningful music. It's not about money for me like it is for Gaga. It's not about having this legion of fans and a fashion line.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. I could give two shits.
This is a very weird feud that I'm not sure anyone cares about, to be completely honest.
Yeah, the underlying motivations behind her writing the song are more interesting than the actual song itself, because
we haven't mentioned that the song is very difficult to listen to.
It's very pedestrian. It's very
it's very mellow. It's a very mellow diss track. If you don't really listen to it, you could probably just fall asleep and be like, okay.
Right. Yeah. If you have a background, if you have a PhD in diss tracks, this would not really line up with probably what you studied.
Yeah.
No.
And if you pair this with the Kendrick Lamar verse that came out this week, the week we're recording this, on the Big Sean song, where he calls out every major rapper.
Yep.
That's a diss track. That's saying, like, no, I'm the biggest rapper in the world. You all need to deal with it because you're never going to be as good as me.
Yeah.
It's just this singling out Gaga, and I don't know. I just don't think it's a. It seems like she's. I'm having trouble forming thoughts, you guys.
So all right, so it just seems like such a silly critique to lob at Lady Gaga, precisely because she now goes by the name Lady Gaga. She was not born Lady Gaga. She has constructed very meticulously a persona that appeals to a certain market, and that market is one that buys things. It is a consumer's market, and so complaining about the fact that someone who is Lady Gaga is commercial, is no longer like attached to her roots, is just like the silliest complaint to lodge.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Beyonce, what happened to Destiny's Child, huh?
Yeah.
Like it's, her roots are pop.
But even,
that is
even
it.
beyond that, it's complaining about Aaron Sorkin being snooty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's complaining about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being intellectual. They're things that are very at the core of who these people are.
Right.
And also, I don't know. I never really listened to a Lana Del Rey song in my life, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have this very unhealthy for me fascination with Lana Del Rey. Because I think that she is very talented. I think she could be an exceptional pop star, but she just refuses to do it. And this song is exactly that. This is her going back on it after she sort of had her breakout and she was on the radio and people were talking about her, and she became this sort of this alt to Lady Gaga, like someone for people in Brooklyn to listen to as their pop star, which is fine. I think she should be that person. She's really good at being that person. Her music as Lana Del Rey is way better than her emotional guitar songs she played in coffee shops before.
Yeah.
But with this song, she just can't have it both ways, you know?
Mm-mm. Also, I doubt Lady Gaga's going to respond. Lady
No.
Gaga is like,
She's got other things to do, like, making crappy music.
Right.
Making
millions of dollars.
Releasing a song right after Katy Perry releases a song for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because she's crazy.
Well, and I think that this song came out this summer very pointedly because Gaga's about to release a new album that everyone's excited about. I think it was, for whatever reason, Lana Del Rey thinks that there's a discussion between them that people are interested in. And this was her way to, like, get in there before everyone hops on the Gaga train.
Right.
Like, oh, guys, remember that I'm here and why you should like me more than Gaga.
Right.
It's bizarre. I don't know. I think I'm more interested in this than either of you are, which is understandable.
It could be.
I find Lana Del Rey fascinating. I kind of like some of her music. It's good.
Yeah, she has a song on the radio that comes on sometimes. And, it's all right.
Yeah, she's sort of.
I don't change the channel, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
There we go.
I would say everyone should listen to it at the very least to hear the song.
Yeah.
It's called So Legit, guys.
And there's a link to it.
It
below
will be
this podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to our first trial, maybe not trial. I think we should post this. This was fun. I liked this.
All right.
Right.
Our episode. It was fun.
Yeah. We're going to be doing this every month.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, not me, but
right. But, we got Brady back.
I can call in.
Yeah, so let's plug some stuff. This is what people do at the end.
Yeah, so...
Really?
Yeah, plugging.
The website, contendersmag.com,
Mhm.
at contendersmag on Twitter.
Yeah.
You can like us on Facebook. We're about to start a YouTube channel. Lots of really exciting stuff happening.
Brady, where can people find you? On Twitter? What's your Twitter? Nope?
No Twitter.
Okay.
Brady is not on the internet.
I don't internet often.
Okay.
Google Plus?
Theoretically,
Maybe
you
by
could,
accident.
but, yeah. If you find me on Google Plus, then you've probably got some larger issues to sort out.
True.
But I'll write something on Contenders pretty soon.
Yeah, read it and like
it.
it.
Won't be that treatise about
corn dogs?
No, it's
Chili dogs. Chili dogs.
Bummer.
Kyle?
You can follow me at Kpaoletta.
Spell your last name.
It's Paoleetta.
Yep.
I imagine someone might be interested.
Yeah, you recently live tweeted watching 9 to 5.
Oh,
that was a
my
crazy
God.
experience for everyone.
That is, we will come back to 9 to 5 on a later podcast because I have so many thoughts.
You can follow me at Lina's Choice, no apostrophe. I also have a blog. It's linaschoice.tumblr.com because I'm into branding.
Yeah.
And I and our good friend Teresa write a bathroom. We rate public bathrooms in Boston. So you can read that at the Wicked Pissa blog at tumblr.com.
It's got valuable information for all your bathroom needs.
Yeah, I've actually used it before. I was like, oh God, I'm in downtown Crossing, where can I go pee? I've like gone on my own blog to look up a place to pee.
I remember when I said this thing.
Yeah. Great. So thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.